Sarah Jenkins pulled her car into the hospital parking lot on that ordinary Tuesday morning, not knowing this day would change her life forever. The Atlanta sun was already beating down, promising another hot summer day as she gathered her belongings and headed into Atlanta Memorial Hospital. At 32 years old, Sarah had established herself as one of the most respected physical therapists in the facility, known for her gentle touch and unwavering patience with patients. Her dark skin glistened with a light sheen of sweat as she rushed through the lobby, her braids swaying with each determined step. She was running 10 minutes late, something that rarely happened to her, but her alarm had failed to go off that morning. As she hurried to her department, Sarah quickly reviewed her patient list for the day. The morning went by smoothly until she reached her 11:30 appointment. Marcus Thompson, she read aloud, noting it was his first session. According to his file, he was a 35-year-old man who had lost the use of his legs in a car accident 3 years ago. Sarah took a deep breath and opened the door to the therapy room. What she saw first was not his wheelchair, but his smile. Marcus Thompson had the kind of smile that could light up a whole room, and despite his situation, his eyes sparkled with life. He wore a simple blue t-shirt and black athletic pants, his muscular arms suggesting he hadn't let his disability stop him from staying fit. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson," Sarah said professionally, extending her hand. "I'm Sarah Jenkins, and I'll be your physical therapist." "Please call me Marcus," he replied, his handshake firm and warm. "Mr. Thompson makes me feel like my dad." As Sarah began the initial assessment, she found herself drawn into easy conversation with Marcus. Unlike many patients who were bitter about their situations, Marcus spoke about his life with humor and honesty. He told her about his job as a software developer, which he had returned to 6 months after his accident. The company was amazing, he explained while Sarah checked his range of motion. "They set up everything for remote work initially, and now I go to the office 3 times a week. My colleagues even learned to leave the coffee maker at wheelchair height." Sarah couldn't help but laugh. "That's thoughtful of them. How do you manage at home?" "I got a pretty sweet setup," Marcus said, wincing slightly as Sarah worked with his left leg. "My apartment's fully adapted. I can cook, clean, and even play my video games without any problems. Though I have to admit, I'm terrible at cooking whether I'm sitting or standing." Throughout the session, Sarah noticed little things about Marcus that intrigued her. The way he used humor to ease tension, how he spoke about his nieces and nephews with such affection, and his genuine interest in hearing about her day. It was refreshing to meet someone who, despite their challenges, remained so positive. As she helped him with his exercises, Sarah found herself sharing more than she usually would with patients. She told him about growing up in Atlanta with her 3 sisters, about her love for jazz music, and about her dream of opening her own physical therapy clinic someday. "Jazz, huh?" Marcus's eyes lit up. "Have you been to Jerry's downtown? They have amazing live performances every Thursday." "Actually, I haven't," Sarah replied, helping him back into his wheelchair as their session came to an end. "I've heard good things about it, though." "Well, maybe." Marcus paused, seeming to gather his courage. "Maybe we could check it out sometime? If that's not crossing any professional boundaries, of course." Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. In her 6 years as a physical therapist, she had never considered dating a patient. It was something she had always seen as unprofessional. But there was something different about Marcus, something special that made her want to know more about him. "I'll have to transfer you to another therapist first," she found herself saying, surprising even herself. "But after that, I'd like that." Marcus's smile grew even brighter. "I'll look forward to it," he said, wheeling himself toward the door. "And Sarah? Thanks for making my first session so comfortable." As Sarah watched him leave, she knew she had just experienced something significant. What had started as a regular Tuesday had somehow become the beginning of something new and unexpected. Little did she know, this was just the first chapter of an extraordinary journey that would challenge everything she thought she knew about love, life, and the power of the human spirit. 2 weeks after Sarah transferred Marcus to another physical therapist, they met for their first date at Jerry's downtown jazz club. Sarah arrived early, wearing a burgundy dress that complemented her dark skin perfectly. She felt nervous, something she hadn't experienced on a date in years. As she waited outside the club, she noticed several people staring when Marcus arrived in his wheelchair, but his confident smile made her forget about their curious looks. "You look beautiful," Marcus said, his eyes taking in her appearance. He was dressed sharply in a blue button-down shirt and black slacks, his wheelchair freshly polished for the occasion. Inside the club, they found a table near the front where Marcus could easily position his wheelchair. The jazz band was playing softly, creating the perfect atmosphere for conversation. As they talked, Sarah discovered that Marcus had a deep knowledge of jazz music that matched her own passion. However, their peaceful evening was interrupted when an elderly woman approached their table. "It's so nice of you to take care of him," she said to Sarah, speaking as if Marcus wasn't there. "You must be his nurse." Before Sarah could respond, Marcus spoke up calmly but firmly. "Actually, she's my date, and I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself, thank you." The woman walked away looking embarrassed, but the incident brought up an important conversation. "Does that happen often?" Sarah asked, stirring her drink. Marcus nodded. "More than you'd think. People either treat me like I'm invisible or assume anyone with me must be a caregiver. You'll probably get a lot of that if you keep seeing me." "Well, they'll have to get used to disappointment," Sarah replied with a determined smile, "because I'm enjoying getting to know you." Over the next few months, Sarah and Marcus faced various challenges as their relationship grew stronger. Sarah's youngest sister, Tamika, couldn't understand why she would complicate her life by dating someone in a wheelchair. Meanwhile, Marcus's mother worried that Sarah would eventually leave him for someone more able-bodied. One Sunday afternoon, during a family dinner at Sarah's parents' house, Tamika made another insensitive comment. "I just don't get it, Sarah. Don't you want a normal relationship? Someone you can dance with at parties?" Sarah put down her fork, her patience finally running out. "Marcus and I do dance, Tamika. We just do it our own way, and our relationship is normal. We laugh, we argue, we support each other, and we love spending time together. The only thing that's not normal is how narrow-minded some people can be." The table fell silent. It was the first time Sarah had openly confronted her family about their prejudices. To everyone's surprise, it was her father who spoke up next. "Sarah's right," he said quietly. "We raised our daughters to judge people by their character, not their circumstances. Marcus has shown nothing but respect and kindness since we met him. Maybe it's time we showed him the same." This moment marked a turning point in how their families viewed their relationship. Marcus's mother, seeing how Sarah defended him and truly cared for her son, began to warm up to her. She even invited Sarah over to learn Marcus's favorite family recipes. As summer turned to fall, Sarah and Marcus developed their own routine. They enjoyed weekly jazz nights, cooked together in Marcus's adapted kitchen, and spent weekends exploring accessible parks and museums around Atlanta. Marcus showed Sarah how he navigated the world from his wheelchair, and she gained a new perspective on accessibility and independence. One evening, as they watched the sunset from Marcus's apartment balcony, he turned to Sarah with a serious expression. "You know, when I had my accident, I thought my life was over. I never imagined I could find someone who would see past the wheelchair." Sarah reached for his hand. "I don't see past it, Marcus. It's part of who you are, and I love who you are. The wheelchair doesn't define you, but it's shaped your strength, your resilience, and your perspective on life. Those are all things I admire about you." Marcus squeezed her hand, his eyes glistening with emotion. Their love was growing stronger, challenging societal prejudices and family doubts. They were proving that true connection goes beyond physical limitations, and that love finds its own way of dancing. Little did Sarah know that Marcus was still keeping one significant secret from his past, a secret that would make their eventual wedding day unforgettable. As Sarah and Marcus's relationship blossomed over the next few months, there was one part of Marcus's life that remained hidden. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, he would tell Sarah he had late meetings at work. In reality, he was heading to the West Side Community Center, where a different part of his life continued to thrive. "All right, everyone, from the top." Marcus called out to the group of teenagers in front of him. The dance studio was filled with mirrors and late afternoon sunlight. 8 young dancers, aged 13 to 17, stood in formation, waiting for his instructions. Despite being in a wheelchair, Marcus commanded the room with natural authority. Before his accident 3 years ago, Marcus had been one of Atlanta's rising stars in the dance world. He had performed with several professional companies and was known for his powerful contemporary dance style. The accident had taken his ability to dance, but it hadn't taken his passion for teaching and choreography. Deshawn, lift your elbow higher during the turn, he instructed, wheeling closer to demonstrate the arm movement. Remember, even the smallest detail matters in telling the story. One of his students, Maria, a talented 15-year-old, approached his wheelchair after class. "Mr. Thompson, why haven't you told your girlfriend about us? My mom saw you two at the grocery store last week. You looked really happy." Marcus sighed, adjusting his position. "It's complicated, Maria. Sarah knows I had an accident, but she doesn't know I was a dancer. Sometimes it's easier not to talk about what you've lost." "But you haven't lost it," Maria protested. "You're the best teacher we've ever had. You see things others don't. The way you help us understand the music, the emotion, that's real dancing." Her words touched Marcus deeply, but he still couldn't bring himself to share this part of his life with Sarah. Every time he thought about telling her, memories of his last performance flooded back. The spotlight, the energy of the audience, the freedom of movement, all of it now existed only in his past. One evening, as Marcus was finishing up a session with his advanced students, the unexpected happened. Sarah walked into the community center looking for the computer literacy class she had volunteered to teach. As she passed the dance studio, she stopped in her tracks, surprised to see Marcus in the middle of the room, surrounded by young dancers. Through the window, she watched in amazement as Marcus demonstrated a complex arm sequence, his wheelchair becoming part of the choreography as he showed a young boy how to connect different movements. His face was lit up with passion as he guided the students, something she had never seen before. Sarah stood there for several minutes, taking in the scene. She saw how the students responded to him with respect and enthusiasm. She watched as he used his upper body to demonstrate expressions and movements, his wheelchair gliding across the floor as if it were part of the dance itself. When the class ended and the students filed out, Sarah finally entered the studio. Marcus looked up and froze, seeing her in the doorway. "Sarah, I can explain," he started, but she was already walking toward him. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked softly, kneeling beside his wheelchair. Marcus looked down at his hands. "I didn't want you to see what I'd lost. Before the accident, dance was everything to me. I performed all over the country. But now you're transforming young lives," Sarah finished for him. "Marcus, what I just saw wasn't about loss. Those kids adore you. You're teaching them more than just dance. You're showing them that passion and creativity have no limitations." Tears formed in Marcus's eyes. "I miss it so much sometimes. Being on stage, feeling the music in every movement. I didn't want to burden you with that part of my story." Sarah took his hand. "Your story is what makes you who you are. And who you are is the man I'm falling in love with. Whether you're dancing on your feet or creating beautiful choreography from your wheelchair, you're still an artist." That evening marked a turning point in their relationship. Marcus began sharing stories of his dance career with Sarah, showing her videos of his performances and introducing her to his students. His studio at the community center became their regular date spot on Tuesday evenings, where Sarah would watch him teach and sometimes even join in for upper body movements. What Sarah didn't know was that Marcus was already beginning to imagine a very special performance, one that would take place on their wedding day, though that was still in their future. After dating for 18 months, Marcus knew it was time to ask Sarah to be his wife. He spent weeks planning the perfect proposal, wanting to combine their shared love of jazz with his passion for dance. He enlisted the help of his dance students and Sarah's family to create a moment she would never forget. On a warm Saturday evening in May, Sarah thought she was just going to Jerry's downtown jazz club for their regular date night. The place where they had their first date held special memories for them both. As they approached the club, Sarah noticed something was different. The usually busy sidewalk was empty, and the club's lights seemed dimmer than usual. "Are you sure they're open tonight?" Sarah asked, her hand resting on Marcus's shoulder as they moved toward the entrance. Marcus smiled mysteriously. "Trust me," he said, wheeling forward to open the door. As they entered, soft jazz music filled the air. The club was empty except for scattered rose petals leading to their usual table. Sarah gasped when she saw her family standing to one side, along with Marcus's parents and his dance students from the community center. "Marcus, what's happening?" Sarah whispered, her heart beginning to race. Before he could answer, the jazz band began playing "At Last" by Etta James, their favorite song. To Sarah's amazement, Marcus's dance students started performing a beautiful routine they had secretly choreographed with him. The dancers moved gracefully around them, their movements telling the story of Marcus and Sarah's relationship. Maria, Marcus's star student, handed Sarah a photo album. With shaking hands, Sarah opened it. Inside were pictures documenting their journey together, their first date at this very club, family dinners, park visits, dance classes at the community center, and countless moments of joy they had shared. As Sarah turned to the last page, she found a handwritten note: "Turn around." When she did, Marcus had positioned his wheelchair directly in front of her. In his hands was a small velvet box. His eyes were shining with tears as he began to speak. "Sarah Jenkins," he said, his voice full of emotion, "when I lost the use of my legs, I thought I had lost everything that made me who I was. I stopped believing in love or that someone could see past my wheelchair. Then you walked into my therapy session and changed everything." Sarah felt tears rolling down her cheeks as Marcus continued. "You didn't just see past my wheelchair, you saw me for who I really am. You helped me believe in myself again. You stood up to anyone who doubted our love. You celebrated when I taught my dance classes instead of seeing what I couldn't do anymore." Marcus opened the velvet box, revealing a beautiful diamond ring. "With you, I've learned that love isn't about walking side by side, it's about moving through life together, no matter how we do it. Sarah, will you marry me?" The club fell completely silent. Sarah could hear her heart pounding as she looked at Marcus, the man who had shown her what true strength and love really meant. Through her tears, she smiled and said, "Yes, absolutely yes." The room erupted in cheers as Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger. His dance students began throwing rose petals, and both families rushed forward to congratulate them. The jazz band struck up a celebratory tune as Sarah leaned down to kiss her new fiancé. Later that evening, as their families and friends celebrated around them, Sarah noticed Marcus deep in thought. "What's on your mind?" she asked, squeezing his hand. Marcus smiled mysteriously. "Just thinking about our wedding day. I have something special in mind for our first dance." "Whatever it is, it will be perfect," Sarah replied, having no idea just how spectacular that dance would be. As they celebrated their engagement, Marcus was already forming a plan. He had been secretly working with his doctors and physical therapists on something that would make their wedding day unforgettable. But for now, he kept that dream to himself, wanting to surprise Sarah with the biggest moment of their lives. The engagement party continued late into the night, with Marcus's students performing more dance routines they had choreographed with him, and both families finally fully united in celebrating the love between this extraordinary couple. It was a perfect beginning to their next chapter together. In the months following their engagement, Sarah noticed strange changes in Marcus's behavior. While they were both excited about planning their wedding, Marcus seemed to be keeping secrets. He was spending extra hours at physical therapy, beyond his regular sessions, and having mysterious meetings that he wouldn't explain. One Tuesday afternoon, Sarah decided to surprise Marcus at his regular physical therapy appointment with lunch. When she arrived at the clinic, the receptionist looked confused. "Marcus Thompson? He changed all his appointments to mornings 3 months ago," the receptionist said, checking her computer. "He comes in at 7 a.m. now, 3 times a week." Sarah felt puzzled. Marcus had told her he was still going to his afternoon sessions. She didn't want to doubt him, but something didn't add up. On her drive back to work, she called his office. "Oh, Marcus has been taking long lunch breaks on Tuesdays and Thursdays," his colleague James mentioned casually. "Said he's working on a special project." The mysteries didn't stop there. Sarah found practice shoes in Marcus's apartment, similar to the ones his dance students wore, but in his size. When she asked about them, he quickly changed the subject. His mother, Mrs. Thompson, seemed to be in on whatever was happening. Sarah had caught them whispering several times, only to fall silent when she approached. "You're being paranoid," Sarah's sister Tamika told her over coffee one morning. "He's probably just planning a wedding surprise. You know how Marcus loves grand gestures." Sarah tried to focus on their wedding plans instead. They had chosen a beautiful venue, the Grand Garden Hotel's ballroom, with its sparkling chandeliers and wooden dance floor. Marcus had been surprisingly specific about the dance floor, insisting on checking its surface and dimensions personally. One evening, while looking through their wedding planning folder, Sarah found a receipt from a medical supply company. It showed a payment for something called adaptive mobility equipment, dated 3 months earlier. When she asked Marcus about it, he seemed flustered. "It's just some new equipment for my wheelchair," he said quickly, wheeling over to take the receipt. "Nothing interesting." Sarah knew there was more to the story, but she trusted Marcus. If he was keeping secrets, he must have a good reason. Still, she couldn't help but notice other strange occurrences. Marcus's dance students seemed to be in on it too. One day, when Sarah stopped by the community center, she overheard Maria saying, "Mr. Thompson, are you sure you'll be ready in time for the—" before another student shushed her. The physical changes in Marcus were becoming noticeable too. His upper body was getting stronger, and he seemed to be working especially hard on his core muscles. Sarah once found physical therapy exercises printed out on his desk with notes about balance and weight distribution. "Marcus," she asked one evening, "is everything okay? You know you can tell me if something's bothering you." Marcus took her hand and smiled. "Everything is perfect, Sarah. I'm just working on making our wedding day as special as you are. Can you trust me?" Looking into his sincere eyes, Sarah nodded. "Of course I trust you. You're not overdoing it with all this extra physical therapy, are you? I don't want you hurting yourself." "I promise I'm being careful," Marcus assured her. "Dr. Stevens is monitoring everything I do. It's all part of the plan." "The mysterious plan you won't tell me about," Sarah teased. Marcus grinned. "You'll understand everything on our wedding day. It'll be worth the wait, I promise." As their wedding day approached, the mysterious activities increased. Sarah spotted Marcus's old dance instructor, Mr. Chen, leaving his apartment one day. There were more medical appointments, more secret meetings, and more whispered conversations that stopped when she entered the room. But Sarah chose to focus on their love and trust instead of the mysteries. She remembered how Marcus had planned their perfect proposal and knew that whatever he was planning for their wedding would come from his heart. Little did she know that Marcus was preparing to give her the surprise of a lifetime, one that would require every ounce of strength, determination, and courage he had been building up over these mysterious months. The morning of their wedding dawned bright and clear. Sarah sat in front of the mirror in the bridal suite of the Grand Garden Hotel, watching as her sister Tamika carefully pinned white flowers into her braided updo. Her white wedding dress, with its flowing skirt and delicate lace details, hung nearby. "You look beautiful," her mother said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "I've never seen a more beautiful bride." In another room down the hall, Marcus was also getting ready, but with more than just the usual wedding day preparations. Dr. Stevens, his physical therapist, and Mr. Chen, his old dance instructor, were with him. They were helping him with something hidden beneath his tuxedo pants, the special leg braces he'd been secretly practicing with for months. "Are you sure about this?" Dr. Stevens asked, making final adjustments. "It's a lot of strain for one day." Marcus nodded firmly. "I've been working toward this moment for months. I want to stand with Sarah when we say our vows." Back in the bridal suite, Sarah's father knocked on the door. When he saw his daughter in her wedding dress, tears filled his eyes. "Baby girl, you're a vision," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Marcus is a lucky man." "I'm the lucky one, Daddy," Sarah replied, hugging him carefully to avoid wrinkling her dress. "Thank you for supporting us, even when others didn't understand our love." The ceremony was set for 2 p.m. in the hotel's garden. Guests filled the white chairs set up on the lawn, with an aisle of rose petals leading to an arch covered in purple and white flowers. Marcus was already in position at the front, sitting tall in his wheelchair, which had been decorated with small flowers to match the wedding theme. The music began to play, a soft jazz melody that made everyone smile, knowing how much it meant to the couple. Sarah's bridesmaids walked down the aisle first, wearing purple dresses that swayed gently in the afternoon breeze. Then the wedding march began, and Sarah appeared on her father's arm. Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. She was radiant, her dark skin glowing, her smile brighter than the sun above them. As she walked toward him, their eyes locked, and everything else seemed to fade away. What happened next caused a collective gasp from the guests. As Sarah reached the altar, Marcus pressed a hidden button on his wheelchair. Slowly, with the help of his specially designed braces, he began to rise. Sarah's hands flew to her mouth in surprise as Marcus stood up, supported by the braces but standing nonetheless. "I wanted to stand with you as we begin our life together," Marcus said softly, tears in his eyes. Sarah was crying too, understanding now all the secret preparations and mysterious appointments. As they stood face to face, their officiant began the ceremony. Their vows were deeply personal. Marcus spoke about how Sarah had helped him rediscover joy and purpose after his accident. Sarah talked about how Marcus had taught her that love knows no boundaries. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. "I promise to be your partner in all things," Marcus said, his voice strong despite the effort of standing. "To dance through life with you, whether on feet or wheels." "I promise to always see you for who you are," Sarah responded, squeezing his hands. "My soulmate, my dance teacher, my best friend." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Marcus remained standing for their first kiss as a married couple. The guests erupted in applause and cheers, many of them understanding for the first time the extent of Marcus's determination and love. As they turned to face their guests, now officially Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, Sarah whispered, "I can't believe you did this." Marcus smiled mysteriously. "Oh, love, this isn't even the biggest surprise of the day. Just wait until the reception." Sarah looked at him questioningly, but Marcus just grinned. He had one more incredible moment planned, one that would make their first dance as husband and wife absolutely unforgettable. As Marcus carefully lowered himself back into his wheelchair, their guests continued to cheer. The ceremony had been beautiful, but none of them knew that the most amazing moment was still to come. The wedding reception was in full swing in the Grand Garden Hotel's ballroom. The room glowed with soft purple lighting, and the tables were beautifully decorated with white and silver centerpieces. Everyone had just finished their dinner, and the DJ announced it was time for the couple's first dance. Sarah stood up from the main table, expecting to wheel Marcus to the dance floor as they had practiced. They had worked out a beautiful wheelchair dance routine that they'd been practicing for weeks. But Marcus had other plans. "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ announced, "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson will now share their first dance as husband and wife." Marcus's dance students suddenly appeared, forming a circle around the dance floor. Dr. Stevens and Mr. Chen stepped forward, helping Marcus out of his wheelchair. This time, instead of just the support braces he had worn during the ceremony, Marcus was wearing something more sophisticated, a cutting-edge mobility assistance device that would allow him more movement. "Marcus, what's going on?" Sarah asked, her heart racing. "Remember when you told me that love finds its own way of dancing?" Marcus smiled, taking her hand. "Well, I found our way." The opening notes of "At Last" by Etta James began to play, their song. But this time, Marcus didn't just stand. With the help of his mobility device and months of secret practice, he began to move. The dance they performed was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. Marcus had choreographed it specially, combining movements he could do with the braces and his upper body strength, seamlessly transitioning between standing and using his wheelchair as part of the dance. Sarah followed his lead perfectly, tears streaming down her face as she realized what he had been planning all those months. Their dance told their story. When Marcus needed to rest in his wheelchair, the movement flowed naturally as part of the choreography. When he stood again, Sarah was there to support him, their bodies moving together in perfect harmony. His dance students joined in at carefully planned moments, creating beautiful formations around them. "This is what you've been working on all this time?" Sarah whispered as they moved together. Every secret appointment, every extra therapy session, Marcus confirmed. "I wanted to prove that nothing is impossible with love." The guests watched in amazement. Marcus's parents were crying, finally understanding why their son had pushed himself so hard in physical therapy. Sarah's family, especially Tamika, who had once questioned their relationship, were speechless seeing the beauty of their dance. In the middle of the performance, Marcus's students scattered rose petals around them as they danced, recreating the moment of their engagement. The audience gasped when Marcus, with careful support from his mobility device, managed to twirl Sarah under his arm. As the song reached its final notes, Marcus and Sarah moved into their final position. Sarah leaned into his embrace as he stood tall, supported by the braces but standing proudly. The room erupted in thunderous applause, many guests giving them a standing ovation. "I can't believe you did all this for me," Sarah said, her voice shaking with emotion. "For us," Marcus corrected her. "To show everyone that love doesn't need to follow anyone else's rules. We make our own dance." The video of their dance, captured by their wedding photographer, would later go viral on social media. It would inspire millions of people, showing that with determination, love, and creativity, any obstacle could be overcome. Maria, Marcus's star student, rushed forward to help him back into his wheelchair. As he sat down, exhausted but happy, Sarah knelt beside him. "You've given me the most incredible surprise," she said, kissing him softly. "But you know what? I would have been just as happy if we danced how we usually do. It's not about how we dance, it's about dancing together." Marcus pulled her close. "I know," he said, "but I wanted to show you, and everyone else, that disabilities don't define what's possible. They just make us find new ways to make our dreams come true." The rest of the evening was filled with more dancing, laughter, and joy. Marcus and Sarah moved between traditional wheelchair dances and a few more special moments with the mobility device. Every dance was perfect because they were together. As their wedding night drew to a close, they had shown everyone that true love knows no boundaries, and that sometimes the most beautiful dances are the ones that break all the rules. 6 months after their magical wedding day, Marcus and Sarah Thompson's life had taken on new and exciting directions they never expected. Their wedding dance video had gone viral, reaching millions of views across social media platforms. People from around the world were touched by their story of love breaking barriers. One morning, as Sarah prepared breakfast in their apartment, she found Marcus watching their wedding video again on his phone. "We got another invitation," he said, looking up at her with a smile. "This time from a dance academy in Chicago. They want us to speak about inclusive dance education." Since their wedding, they had received countless requests to share their story. What had started as a beautiful personal moment had grown into something much bigger. They had already appeared on 3 morning talk shows, and their story had been featured in several magazines. "You know what's amazing?" Sarah said, setting down plates of pancakes. "Remember how my sister Tamika used to worry about me having a normal relationship? Now she's volunteering at your dance studio." It was true. After seeing their wedding dance, Tamika had completely changed her perspective. She now helped Marcus teach dance to children with various disabilities at the West Side Community Center, which had grown significantly since their story went viral. Marcus had expanded his dance program, using the attention from their wedding video to secure funding for adaptive dance equipment. The community center now had a special program called Dance Without Limits, where people with all types of abilities could learn to express themselves through movement. "Yesterday, I had a student just like me," Marcus shared, his eyes lighting up. "A former dancer who lost mobility in an accident. When I showed him our wedding video, he cried. Then he signed up for classes immediately." Sarah sat down beside him, taking his hand. "And how's the book coming along?" Marcus had been approached by a publisher to write about his journey from professional dancer to his accident, and then to his wedding day surprise. But he had insisted on making it more than just his story. He was including chapters about adaptive dance, breaking social barriers, and redefining what's possible. "Chapter 5 is giving me trouble," he admitted. "It's hard to put into words how it felt standing up with you at our wedding. How do you describe a moment that changes everything?" Sarah smiled, remembering that day. "Just write it from your heart, like everything else you do." Their lives had become busier than ever. 3 evenings a week, they taught couples dance classes together at the community center. Sarah had learned to incorporate wheelchair movements into their lessons, creating unique routines that worked for everyone. They had couples coming from other states to learn their inclusive dance techniques. "Oh, I almost forgot," Marcus said, wheeling to his desk. The designs came in for the new adaptive dance wear line. He pulled out sketches of dance clothes specifically designed for wheelchair dancers and people using mobility devices. A company had approached them about creating a clothing line that would make dancing more comfortable for people with disabilities. Sarah and Marcus had spent months consulting with dancers, therapists, and designers to create something practical yet beautiful. "Maria called yesterday," Sarah mentioned, referring to Marcus's star student. "She got accepted to Juilliard's summer program. She's dedicating her audition piece to you." Marcus beamed with pride. His students were achieving their dreams, proving that the impact of their wedding dance reached far beyond just one magical moment. As they finished breakfast, Sarah's phone buzzed with a notification. Another comment had appeared on their wedding video. "Thank you for showing me that love has no limitations. My daughter is in a wheelchair, and I've always worried about her future. Your story gives me hope." Marcus wheeled over to read the comment, wrapping an arm around Sarah's waist. "Sometimes I think about that day in physical therapy when we first met," he said softly. "Who would have thought it would lead to all this?" Sarah leaned down to kiss him. "We're just getting started," she said. "Think about how many more lives we can touch, how many more barriers we can break." As they looked out their apartment window at the Atlanta skyline, they knew their story was more than just a viral wedding video or an inspiring dance. It was proof that love, determination, and creativity could change not just 2 lives, but countless others. Their new beginning was actually a beginning for many others too, a reminder that everyone deserves to dance to their own rhythm, in their own way.